are listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe Coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. So the other day, I got an email that I did not love. It was a surprise 4-figure bill that I didn't even know I was incurring. It was not a pleasant surprise. In fact, I went to sleep that night thinking about all the things I didn't like about that. I didn't like that, first of all, I wasn't expecting it. Second, I didn't think I had authorized it. I didn't think I should have to pay it. I didn't like the number on it. Like, none of it felt good. None of it felt fair. Did not like it. Didn't feel good to pay it. Didn't feel good not to pay it because the person who sent it thought, that it was a legit fair bill. I was like, I didn't like any of this. I didn't like any of it. And all that grumbling about it, it kind of reminded me of other things that I wasn't liking lately because, that's how law of attraction works. So I'd gone to bed, and I didn't even sleep that great. I lost sleep over it. That's how upset I was about it. And it's not like I didn't have the money to pay it. I just didn't want to. I didn't think I should. But it didn't feel good not to either. Ugh. No good. No good vibrations there. And then the next morning, when, in that stage in the early morning when you're not quite awake, but you're also not asleep. Okay, for me, that's prime time for angels to get a message through. That's prime time. I'm sorry, angels, that I'm not easier to get message through in other times, but I did. I feel like it, whether angels, guides, higher power, whatever you want to call it, I don't make a big distinction about that, but I think of it as angels got this message through where they said, this didn't feel like a thought I was making up my own self, but one that was given to me that said, stop believing in your problems. Stop believing in your problems. Because, this surprise bill was one, but it had led to me thinking about other stuff I didn't like. And there they were, just telling me right in that early morning time when I could still hear them, to tell me, stop believing in your problems. And just like that, I knew instantly. I knew I didn't need any follow-up. I knew that my belief in this problem, in any problem, was what propped it up. That's what gave it its existence. The only way a problem can be is if someone believes in it. If I stopped believing in it, it has to stop being. That's how it works. If it doesn't have energy invested in it by an observer, it cannot exist. Our entire reality is what people thought into, what they focused into existence. So if I stopped focusing on this, it couldn't be anymore. Which meant I'm in charge here, not the problem. I'm in charge. It depends on me for its literal existence. It can't live without my attention. So, with that in mind, and I'll just say thanks for the intervention, angels. I asked myself, what does it mean to stop believing in a problem? Like, how does that work? While it's still here, how can I stop believing in what I don't want when it already seems to be what's so? And this is not something I would ask of anyone who doesn't know their reality-creating powers. This would be a cruel thing to suggest to any muggle, anyone who doesn't understand vibration and energy and focus. Forget about it. They're off the hook for this one. They could keep believing in problems because would be a stretch for them. And even for some of us who are LOA savvy, sometimes this can be a stretch. But it's a good stretch. It's a good stretch because conscious creators know how this goes. We create our reality based on what we think. So if I stop thinking of it as a problem, it cannot be that anymore. And if I stop thinking on it at all, what would happen to it? It's the same thing that happens to everything that stops getting thought. It falls away. At least it can't be part of my reality. It doesn't get to be in my world anymore. It gets replaced with whatever I am thinking about. Right? That's how it works. In fact, this is why Abraham has said, you know how abandoned houses decline so quickly? They say it's because no one's there to prop it up with their thoughts. It literally disintegrates without an observer focusing it into being. When we stop popping that quantum wave, it ceases to be. In fact, I remember reading how, it was quantum mechanics researchers. They were arguing about whether the moon existed when they weren't looking at it. Have you heard their arguments on this? Their conclusion was that it doesn't. I'm not making this up. Okay, we're making it all up. Every time I ever hear myself saying, I'm not making this up, I laugh because we're making all of it up. And if I don't want to make up a problem, I don't have to. I could make up something else instead. You know what? When Morgan Freeman was interviewed and someone asked him, how do you end racism? His answer, stop talking about it. That's what he said. And he did not elaborate. I heard that and I was like, man, is he a conscious creator? That might sound like an extreme example. And again, I know conscious creators who would probably argue with me on that one, or purported conscious creators who would argue on that one. But we know this. If no one's thinking it, it cannot be. If I'm not investing energy, and we're each creating our own reality, so it's not like someone can decide what's going to be in my world and they impose it on me, like the way that Bill felt. I'm creating my reality. We each get to think up our own version of our own world, so I don't even have to worry what someone else is thinking up. I could just focus on my own game here. So, if I'm not thinking about this problem, what might I think on instead? I was like, just taking a wild stab here. Maybe I could think about something I actually want. Maybe I could think on that instead. That would be an improvement. Or maybe I could still think on 4-figure bills, but I wouldn't have to think of it as a problem. I could just think of it as a thing, not a bad thing. I could take the judgment off of it. Maybe I could think on, fairness and clear communication and good understandings and good value for the money. Maybe I could think on more important things like, so many things we're thinking on, like a thriving planet and thriving animals and expanding consciousness, so many better things to be thinking about. Or maybe I could think of all the things that are going right in my world, easy and effortless. Maybe I could think on those things. Maybe I could think how cool it is that I get to hear angels as I wake up from sleep. Maybe I could think about all the people who are supportive and helpful in my life, right? Maybe I could think on whatever it is that I want and just enjoy thoughts of that. And maybe I could think on the easy resolutions of the other things that I used to think of as problems that turned out not to be. That's happened to me in the past. Oh my gosh, remember when I was on my Facebook page making a big deal about how, I had barn swallows for the first time ever, making a nest on my deck. I loved it so much. And I got concerned because there was some angry flying and chirping and fighting. It didn't seem too cool. And when I looked it up, it appeared that there was an unmated male swallow who was trying to win this female over by offing the offspring of the 5 chicks that were in the nest. And I thought that was a problem. Once I figured out what was going on, whenever I heard them start to chirp, I would go out there and I would just wave my arms because my swallows weren't afraid of me, but the stranger swallow was. So I was like, Dad, don't worry, I got your back here. Well, it was ridiculous because this was no problem. Mom and Dad knew exactly what to do. A couple days later, I watched them chase off a hawk who wasn't even in their immediate area. They chased off a hawk. I didn't need to worry about them with a single little unmated male swallow. I also thought I was going to have to worry about my cats with those babies out there, like when they're learning to fly. And that wasn't a problem either. Guess what? Barn swallows don't hang out on the ground. They don't, even when they're learning how to fly. They don't. Mom and Dad had this whole thing covered. I didn't need to worry about any of it. I could just remember how I thought there was a big problem. I thought the 5 babies were in danger. No, it was so silly. And I could do that, so silly of me. That was so silly to invest any energy in creating a problem. Because all those things that seemed like problems weren't even that. The thing I was so upset about could be it's something that isn't even, it's not an issue. I could make it a non-issue. It's happened before, I could do it again. And I could instead start believing, instead of believing in problems, I could believe in easy answers and magic unfoldings and divine intervention. Like, what would it be like to believe in things working out perfectly, or even better than that? How about if I believed that I had a good handle on things and that it's good practice for me to do this for the things that really matter? And how about if I reminded myself that everything's always fine and that I just came here for a good time and not to take any of this too seriously, and that a good time is available anytime I choose it? How about I remember that? And maybe I could just relax about all of it and just enjoy what's to be enjoyed. And I could let things work themselves out instead of thinking I got to figure it all out my own self. And then I thought, how about if I write this down for the next time that I or one of my co-creator friends was tempted to believe in a problem? Yeah, how about that? And I know that some here, on some occasions, myself included, it won't feel right ignoring some things that seem dire and real and important. I'm not going to ignore everything, but when I've had enough of a problem, it's good to remember that this is an option. Just stop creating it. Stop investing in it. Stop attending to it. Stop perpetuating it. And for those things that I do want to rendezvous with, every once in a while a problem is a beautiful thing to have. It can be. I'm laughing as I think about some of the problems some people have shared with me. They're like someone else's dream come true. Yeah, I know. I've actually done some of that my own self. I complained to my friend once upon a time, like when I first moved up here, I'd say something like, man, it's sure windy out there today. He'd be like, oh, don't pretend you don't live in paradise. Like he wouldn't even let me pretend that this is a problem to be up here. I love that about him. Yeah. So, I actually did a call on this subject at Good Vibe University where I shared a couple of case studies, because once I started experimenting with this, the universe gave me some cool stuff to play with where I started popping problems left and right, like just not even believing in them anymore. Some stuff that actually I was pretty nervous about, including this one. I had fabulous resolution on it. If you're a GVU member, go tune in for that if you like more of it. But in the meantime, those of you who are listening to this episode, my invitation is to you to know the power of your belief and to practice believing in what you want. That's it. Hope you got some inspiration here. Thanks for listening. Bye, everyone.